Well, so everyone, nice to see you all here. I'm Rene Holaday. I'm running for Congress, 5th District, obviously, and well, this is my home stomping ground. So I'm a Stevens County resident. I've lived here ever since 2003 when my husband and son and I moved here and bought a horse farm, a 40-acre horse farm, and and ever since, well, I've been uh, thrust into something that I wasn't expected. Well, first of all, a little bit more about me. I spent 6 years in college studying engineering, wildlife biology, and macro sociology with the special study of government and foreign governance structures, and also more special study on the Holocaust and the false science of eugenics. And so that is my background in college. And so, well, what I learned from that special study of government and governance structures is how to recognize things that are constitutional in this nation and things that are not constitutional. And so well, so let me go back even a little bit farther. So I've got the history of 6 years of college and studying. Well, when I moved here to have a horse farm, which had been my lifelong dream, I suddenly was running into programs that were very, very unconstitutional. And I know from my education that, well, if you see certain things start to happen, like I started to see in the year 2006, like any kind of fascism or any kind of communism, any kind of socialism, it's very important that you get busy and start working against it, because history shows that if you don't do something about it, it takes off. And so I saw that there was fascist programs starting, and especially against farm owners, livestock owners, property owners. And the first thing that I saw that I started working against was the National Animal Identification System, NACE. Well, so I dropped pretty much everything I was doing. I put my whole horse business on the back burner, and I started working against it full time. And I essentially went into full-blown research mode and investigating where this thing came from and who even thought of this? This was an unconstitutional program. So basically in 2006, I was the first one in the whole United States to lead an anti-NACE rally right here in Colville. In fact, I led the first three protests against that. I organized everybody, pulled everybody together, educated them on what I had found out so far, and I continued from there on for the next 3 years to coordinate not just locally, but statewide and nationally. I ended up posting 722 articles about this and found out that NACE, this National Animal Identification System that wanted to RFID chip all of our animals, came from the United Nations. I went, wow, the United Nations, what are they doing here at the local level, at the state level, at the national level? What are they doing in the United States telling us what we can do with our animals, right? And so this investigation eventually led 6 years later to the very first book in the United States on Agenda 21. I'm now considered a UN expert. I have been fighting and working against these UN programs ever since. And not only have I been doing that, but I started the Stevens County Property Rights Group and led that for 5 solid years. And well, I don't know if any of you know, but the UN Charter is based on the Communist Manifesto. Does everybody know that here? Okay, well, so basically what we're working against with United Nations and United Nations programs is communism. And so as I'm researching all of this, I'm holding public meetings, I'm educating everyone in the public about what I'm finding out with all of these communist programs. So when I started the Stevens County Property Rights Group, I knew full well that what I would be fighting is basically these UN programs that are professing communist dictates. And so I went to work against them, and represented all of the property rights, all of the property owners here in Stevens County. And well, I had great success fighting the communists that were pushing this, because as you know, with communism, the very first thing that a communist wants to get rid of is property rights. Then they want to get rid of individual rights, and they want to get rid of God. So I'm sure you all know, or you're familiar with the Marxist statement, my goal in life is to dethrone God and destroy capitalism. Well, that's exactly what we're facing at the national level, the state level, and the local level. I'm an expert on all of these programs. I wrote the first book in the United States on this whole entire subject. Well, and I have been fighting these programs and these communists ever since. And I've learned how to win against them. Because, for instance, when I represented property rights against the voluntary stewardship program from Washington State, I fought them for a year and a half, where it was me against 12 other people voting against me. I was the only one representing property rights. And so, you know, goodness sakes, how does somebody win when there's always going to be 12 votes against your one vote, right? Well, you dig in, you get smart. And so I read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Well, lo and behold, you don't have to use weapons to use his tactics. And that is exactly how I ended up winning against the communists in the voluntary stewardship program. And basically what the voluntary stewardship program said was that you're going to more or less lose your rights through a contractual agreement. And so, so I more or less said, that's not going to happen on my watch, and ultimately got the teeth taken out of the voluntary stewardship program. I did it here for all of Stevens County, and then Spokane County copied what I had, so they got rid of it as well. So that was a huge success, and it took a year and a half. So I guess that was it. I have to hold the microphone. Okay. Do you plan on having staff read or review new legislative proposals, or do you do all of your own review? Why? Well, as a researcher, investigator, that's my first book. This is my second book, and these are my two congressional bills that I've already written. I wrote this first one last year before I even thought of running for Congress. This is to secure the border, to ban electronic voting machines and mail-in ballots, to stop child trafficking, and my second bill that I've already written to prevent illegal aliens from voting. And so, will I be reading it, or will I pay somebody else to read? Well, I like to do the research myself. However, there are some bills, like you've heard of the 30,000-page bills, you know, or even the 1,000-page bills that you're given less than 24 hours to read. You're darn right I'm going to employ some people to help me read those things, and as many people as I can get, because I want the full-on content before I vote on anything. Because first of all, I am a Constitution buff, and as an elected official, we are required by law to uphold our oath of office, which is to defend the Constitution, right? And so I'm not going to sign on to anything that is not constitutional. Absolutely nothing. That is going to be my first line in the sand. Is it constitutional? Because if it's not, I'm not going to sign it. And if it's not, and you're trying to push it, I'm going to work against it, because that means it's illegal. And so, yeah, that would be the best answer to that question. I'm more than happy to employ people, but I really like to do as much of it as I possibly can myself. Yep, if I let go, it will fall. Doing this one-handed opening. Okay. Here we've got, okay, this is a coordination exercise. In going to Congress, what is the biggest problem that you expect to encounter, and how would you deal with it? Oh, perfect. perfect question. This book right here is the first book also written in the United States on how to deal with the communist takeover of this nation. I wrote the first book on that too. So my biggest opposition once I get to Congress is dealing with the communists. First of all, this whole book is based on the Constitution. And how many of you out there know what Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says? It says, we are guaranteed a Republican form of government. Well, let me tell you about the brilliance of that. The brilliance is that the forefathers, our founding fathers, did not have to invent every form of government that would be illegal. So they just guaranteed one. That makes all the others illegal. That's how you get rid of communism. You use the law.